Bum, bum, ba-da-da, bum,
Bow,
bum.
bow.
What's going on? Welcome back to the Blue Review. As you see, that is not Marcus Grant next to me. That is Jeff Spiegel of Dodger Blue 1958. So welcome, Jeff Spiegel. We just talked and did this about, 10 hours ago on Dodger's Head. But, what's going on this morning? Do you want to talk about the same stuff we talked about yesterday?
Well, first, I want to apologize to anybody who was expecting Marcus. I'm sure I will disappoint you in that regard. So apologies to all those people. But it's always great to be here, Greg. No better place for me to be starting my Friday morning Dodgers game day than with you.
Yeah, it's the best place to be. And by the way, I'm going to praise you and say thank you. This is now 2 weeks in a row that you've done the bendy, and that, it just really makes the show start the right way. You know what I mean?
I'm trying to be a team player, trying to buy in, do my part here. And so I'm glad that it's being noticed and appreciated.
It is noticed and appreciated. And who also notices it and appreciates it? LAX, because Blue Review is brought to you by LAX, where changes are arriving daily, transforming the travel experience. For more information, go to flylax.com/transforminglax. And let's just kind of get right into what we only have a few 25 minutes, now 23 minutes, and everybody wants to talk about Dodger baseball. So we are going to do a little bit of that. By the way, I am going to be paying attention to the chat. So if you have questions, comments, things that you want to be talking about onto the show today, Jeff and I will answer those as I see them. But to start off, got Yoshinobu Yamamoto starting today, and he has been great this entire season. We've talked about it plenty of times that Yamamoto is the best pitcher on this team. I don't think it's very close anywhere else right now. He's pitching he seems to be on a schedule of Friday. Friday is the day that he pitches. But now with 10 games in 10 days, there's some talk about whether that or not that could still be the case. What do you think is the best situation for Yamamoto?
Clearly, the once a week thing has been working. I mean, and literally since March 28th, he has pitched every single Friday, once a week. Roki Sasaki has pitched once a week on Saturdays. To your point, they've been able to pull that off because they haven't had a Thursday game in like 5 weeks. Now they've got some Thursday games coming up. And I think it's an interesting decision for the Dodgers. I think my guess is they would love to keep them on a once a week type routine. The problem is that means you need 7 different people to start games in the next 7 days. And they have 4 healthy pitchers right now, and 2 of them are Tony Gonsolin and Dustin May, who, I wouldn't exactly say are pillars of long-term health. And you've got Roki Sasaki. So other than Yamamoto, I wouldn't say any of the other 3 guys they have healthy are dudes that I would just pencil in for 25 to 30 starts in a season.
I mean, Tony Gonsolin looked really good the other night. Dustin May has been good all season. He hasn't always had the swing and miss stuff, but Dustin May's been really good. Now, you're right. Obviously, they haven't been the pillars of health, but they still have pitched really well. And even Sasaki has been going. He went 5 2/3 in 6 innings in the last 2 outings. But maybe are these guys being more reliable now?
Yeah, I think they're here, right? They're healthy right now. And so sometimes we make this mistake of like just waiting and assuming they're going to get hurt, which might happen. Like if you were doing that with Tyler Glasnow and Blake Snell, you would feel vindicated. But sometimes I'm just like, I don't know, they're here now. So rather than planning for the day when they get injured, let's just accept the fact and appreciate the fact that they're upright at the moment. The question, though, that you asked that I think is the key one is, do you move them to once every 6 days now that the schedule is sort of nudging you towards that? Dave Roberts has said, hey, we did this last year with Yamamoto around this time. They moved him to a 6-day rotation. He said it's another thought as far as given the amount of games we have in a row to have them have less rest in between starts. So I would say go for it. I think a 6-man rotation pitching once every 6 days is not too much to ask for these guys. It's still more rest than every other pitcher in Major League Baseball gets. It's not a 5-man. So I would say go for it. And then you've only got 2 holes in the rotation to fill.
And to that point, I mean, like they've been on 6-man rotations for their entire careers. This is what they did in Japan. This is what they're used to. They just happen to get an extra day of rest, and that has really worked out as well. I just would never go to. You talked about how there's only 4 healthy pitchers, and a couple of the others, those guys. I would not ever go down to a 5-man rotation with these guys. I know they were saying before the season, oh yeah, we're going to be in a 5-man rotation. No, you're not. You're in a 6-man rotation, and when you can, you're in a 7-man rotation with an off day. So yes, I'm totally with you on that. I just feel like there's no reason to push them further. When they did it last year, it became Yamamoto got hurt and he went on the IL for a long time. So there's never a reason to change their routines.
Yeah, and I think you can make the case, as many people like us have been making all along. The goal for the Dodgers is not to win games in April and May and June. The goal is to win games in September, October, and November. And so if you're the Dodgers and you're playing the long game here, yes, you might need to find 3 spot starters or throw in a bullpen game or 2 bullpen games in the midst of this in order to keep these guys on the rotation that they're clearly currently comfortable with. And so maybe that is the move. You say, hey, it's going to get uncomfortable. Matt Sauer is going to need to eat innings. Kasparius is going to need to eat innings. We're going to have to call up Landon Knack or Justin Robleski or Bobby Miller. But it's all worth it because the goal is to get Yamamoto through a season healthy. It's to get Sasaki through a season healthy. So I could see both. If it were me, I would just go to the 6-man rotation and see how it works. Because at some point, by the way, you're going to need to get these guys on a little bit of a tighter rotation. Once every 7 days isn't going to work come postseason time. And so it doesn't have to be May. I'm not saying May 2nd is the day to start this, but at some point it's going to need to get down to at least, a game every 6 days instead of 7.
Well, they might actually get a 7-day rotation despite all of that, because I just seen Craig Osterberg says that weather in Atlanta is 50% chance of rainfall when the game starts. So if that's the case, they may just move to a 7-man rotation and not play 10 games in 10 days. They'll get 2 days off. So that's a thing that could be happening. But also you mentioned putting in a couple different bullpen games in there. I'm of the opinion that that's fine. Going with bullpen games every once in a while is totally fine. It's helping the health of the pitchers, as long as you're not overusing some of the bigger name guys. And now with Trinan on the 60-day IL, we're not going to see Michael Kopech for a little while because he's on the 60-day IL. You can bring up a couple of different relievers, and they just re-signed JP Fireisen and Lutis. How do you say his name?
Lutis. Yeah.
Lutis. What's his first name?
Ryan Lutis from the Cardinals.
Yeah, Ryan Lutis. So they just brought up 2 more guys that they can just kind of mix and match in there. Do you have any issues with bullpen games as long as you don't overuse the big name guys?
Yeah, it takes some creativity from the front office because you're going to have to shuffle some guys in and out of that major league rotation. We've seen them do it already, right? With guys like Matt Sauer coming up, with guys like Landon Knack coming up. Fireisen and Lutis, I think, are both guys that they're going to call up at some point. They're going to eat some innings, and then they'll probably send them back out to the waiver wire, which is where they found them. So it's just going to be a little bit more complicated, a little more touch and go for the front office. But if that's what they need to do, again, the goal is to keep starting pitchers healthy. And if in the process it means churning through, 5-6 more Luis Garcia types over the course of a season, then that's the price you pay.
Hey, Luis Garcia doing a good job. I'm not upset with anything that Luis Garcia is doing, honestly.
I know I should pick somebody else because Luis Garcia, I think we talked about last night. I mean, his last 7 outings, he's allowed 2 hits and no runs. Maybe Noah Davis is a better name. We'll go with Noah Davis as the guy that they can just churn through there. How about that? Or Yoendrys Gomez, one of those 2.
Both of those guys, perfect examples. Luis Garcia, been solid. So they're in Atlanta right now, and so obviously a little bit of chance of rain. But Lucy Chen asks, how many wins can we get during these 10 days game trip? Which
so we got the Braves, the Marlins, and the Diamondbacks on this trip. Braves got swept by the Dodgers. There's the good news. The bad news is they've won 9 of their last 12 coming into this series. It is in Atlanta. So I think
Grant Holmes. Sorry, they tend to hit Grant Holmes, who they're seeing tonight.
Yeah, former Dodger. So that makes me feel good. Obviously, Yamamoto, Sasaki, May, I believe, is the 3 guys that they have set up for Atlanta. So those are right now 3 guys you trust. I think Gonsolin, May are probably a push, but. So I like their chances there. Then they get Greg's favorite team in Major League Baseball, the Marlins, for a few more games, which that doesn't hurt. It doesn't suck to play that team some more. And then the Diamondbacks are going to be fun. So 10 games, how many do they win? I'll say 3 against the Marlins. Give me 2 against the. I'll go 7-3 for the Dodgers over the stretch.
I think that sounds about right. And think about this too. We've spent the entire first month plus of the season, and we're talking about how they're struggling. The bats aren't doing anything. We're having some problems with the pitching staff. They're not going deep into games. You're calling 7-3 for this team, and as of right now, they are leading They have the best record in all of baseball.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I think that's the goal, is what I've been told.
Right. But this is a problem, right? For the rest of the league, this is a problem because the Dodgers struggled for that first month of the season, yet on May 2nd, they're in first place in all of baseball and have a 1.5 lead in the division. They're showing that this team, because of the way Andrew Friedman built them, they put together a team that, despite those issues, can overcome so much. And maybe it is a little bit of who you've played, because they're not playing the Padres, they're not playing the Giants, they haven't even played the Diamondbacks until soon enough, and they played the Braves when they were kind of terrible. So it's about who they play, but they still play who's in front of them, and are leading all of baseball.
Yeah, 3rd in Major League Baseball in runs scored at the moment. We've talked about the pitching injuries that they've already had to navigate, both in the bullpen. Some of their top arms, obviously Trinan is now out. Kopech hasn't pitched yet this season. Evan Phillips has only been back for like a week and a half. Rotation, Snell, Glass now out. Kershaw hasn't pitched. Ohtani hasn't pitched. Gonsolin has only made 1 start. And then on the offensive side, Mookie Betts hasn't really got it going. Max Muncy hasn't really got it going. Freddie Freeman's great. Ohtani's great. Will Smith, Teoscar, those 4 have been awesome. But yeah, I don't think this isn't the 100th percentile outcome for the Dodgers. It's not like you're looking at them and saying, man, they are firing on all cylinders right now. You'd say, yeah, they've been fine. Like, it's probably a B+ performance relative to expectations. And to your point, the Dodgers B+ is the best record in baseball, a 1.5 lead in the division, and we're just continuing to project success moving forward.
Right. And that's what it's going to be. They're very much going to be favored in every game moving forward, I'd have to imagine. Maybe depending on who they play against the Mets or what the pitching matchup is. But for the most part, you got to feel like they're going to be that team. You mentioned Mookie Betts and Max Muncy. Let's talk a little bit about Mookie. Yeah. Mookie has been struggling a little bit. He's starting to get a little bit better over his – I was just looking this up. Over his last 7 games, he's been better. He has 6 hits and 21 at-bats. He's got a triple. He has 8 RBIs, so that's a really important stat to see that he has 8 RBIs in that time. Only 2 strikeouts, 1 walk, and he has – but his numbers, the peripheral numbers, are all down. 286 batting average, 304 on-base percentage, 381 slug for 685 OPS. I know that was a lot of numbers, but those aren't Mookie Betts-type numbers. Are you worried at all about Mookie, or are you seeing a change?
Well, last night you and I played a game where I flip a coin, and I either who it's randomly decided somebody has to make an argument for Mookie Betts or against Mookie Betts. We didn't do Mookie Betts, but as I look at his numbers, I could do either. I could make the case for why I'm confident that Mookie Betts is going to be fine. And also there's some numbers out there that I could try and make the case for why I'm concerned about Mookie Betts. The reason I'm not concerned about Mookie Betts is because he's Mookie Betts, and he's one of the best players in Major League Baseball. And yes, his numbers aren't amazing. He's still an above-average offensive player right now. It's not peak Mookie Betts, but he's going to be fine. You mentioned it. Over the last, 4 games, he's had hits in 4 straight. He's 8 for his last 17 with a triple, 8 RBIs. Like you said, if you want to go back a little further, he had a 3-hit game last Wednesday against the Cubs. So that's encouraging that he's starting to hit the ball. He's starting to drive in runs. So that's the good news. He's Mookie Betts. He's starting to hit. On the flip side, the nerd stats, which I know you love, Greg, more than anybody else in my life. You love them.
Only when you say them.
They're not great. They're not great. So Savant has a page with like 10 or 15 key indicators on the offensive side of things. Blue is bad. Red is good. Dark red is great. Dark blue is bad. There's some dark blue on Mookie Betts' page. Barrel rate, 9th percentile in Major League Baseball. Hard hit percentage, 14th percentile in Major League Baseball. That means he's one of the bottom 15% guys in all of Major League Baseball at how often he hits the ball hard and how often he barrels it up. Bat speed, really, really low, 6th percentile for bat speed. Now, his bat speed was low last year. He probably can make it work with that. But there's a lot of concerning numbers there with Mookie Betts. And so I'm choosing to be optimistic because it's Mookie Betts. I think he figures it out. Small sample size, learning a new position, sick, lost 1 million pounds at the beginning of the year, all that kind of stuff. This will normalize. That's where I'm at. Where are you at, Greg?
So I'm the same. It's Mookie Betts. I'm not really worried about Mookie Betts. I think he'll be just fine. But what I do want to ask you though is how much do you think him playing shortstop is affecting him at the plate? I mean, he's working hard at shortstop. He's playing a much better shortstop than he has in the past. He's still, it's still not perfect. It's still probably an average defender, but do you think that has anything to do? The amount of pressure he's putting on himself, the amount of work he's putting into that position is affecting him at the plate?
I think anybody who says otherwise would be lying to themselves. The question is, how much is it impacting him? I don't think Mookie Betts is incapable of compartmentalizing all of these things, but he's a human being. Like, he's trying to learn a new position. I wouldn't use the word pressure because I doubt Mookie cares all that much about what other people think and, that kind of thing. But I think it's just taking up brain power in his body. I think it's taking up space in his mind and in his thoughts about where he needs to be positioned and how his last throw looked and all that. And then by the time he gets to the plate, maybe he's not as focused as he has been. So I think it absolutely is impacting him. Is it 50% of the reason? Is it 10% of the reason? That's the question for me. And maybe the more important question is, does that number go down as he gets more and more reps at shortstop, as he continues to play competently there? Does it take up less of his brain power and allow him to sort of dial back in on the offensive side of things?
Yeah, he's going to be just fine. By the end of the year, we're going to all be looking like, oh, remember when we were worried about Mookie Betts? Just like everybody last year was worried about Mookie Betts when it came to the playoffs, and he had a great playoffs. So he's still Mookie Betts. He'll be fine. That's not someone, and I don't think anybody's really worrying about, but you can see at the top of the lineup, there's been some struggling. He's been popping up a lot. He's been grounding out. He just wasn't really getting big hits in big situations. And that's very un-Mookie Betts like. So you kind of look at him like, is there anything going on there? And the answer is most likely no.
Yeah.
The other guy you mentioned, Max Muncy, has started to turn it around a little bit. He got his first home run. That felt really good. It's a huge weight off of his shoulders, I'm sure. But what do you think happens with Max? Is this the start of something, or was that just a one-off?
Yeah, I think it's encouraging. You look at his last 5 games, he has 5 hits and he has 5 walks over that stretch. So in 22 plate appearances, he's reached base 10 out of 22 times. That's very good. He has the Sun triple. We'll give him credit for the home run. So I've said all along, if you've been following me or watching anything on our show, the underlying stuff with Max Muncy has actually been more encouraging than Mookie. I just told you all those numbers for Mookie. Max Muncy's hard hit rate, his barrel rate were both better than they were last year, even as he struggled this year and was awesome last year. And so there was some reason to believe that the quality of contact was still there. It was just a matter of making contact. He was swinging and missing too much. He was chasing too much. He was striking out like 7% more than he has in his entire career. And so that, to me, like, if there's one thing Max Muncy can fix, that feels fixable to me. If the quality of contact stays where it is, no reason to believe it won't, then I think this is just going to be a blip on the radar. I don't think he's going to be like all-star level Max Muncy, but I think he's going to be a really solid offensive player as he gets older, continue to hit. Maybe not quite as much power, but maybe he's an 18 to 22 home run guy this season. And I think at this point, we would all be thrilled with that.
I mean, 18 to 22 home runs, and you're talking about a guy that's making an impact on this team this year, and after having a horrific first month of the season. So look, you give me 18 to 22, I'll be ecstatic. He also, what's been happening too is like his timing just seemed to be just a little bit off. Yes, the swinging and the miss, obviously, but even when he did catch the barrel, his timing was just a little bit off to where it would go down just foul down the right field line, or just wasn't enough power behind it that it was falling dead at the before the wall. So those things are seemingly coming back around and showing in the fact that is walking more, that he's getting on base more with just when it comes to a single or a double. And it's despite the fact that there's no home runs. I'm not too worried about Max. I mean, obviously there's a little bit of worry because he's a little bit older, but speaking of home runs, but going back to Mookie for a second, does that bother you that his power is down?
Yeah, I mean, Mookie, his last home run was April 14th, and that was in Colorado. That he hit 2 home runs in the month of April. One was on April 1st, one was on April 14th, and other than that, he had no home runs he had just 1 triple and 3 doubles. So 6 extra base hits for Mookie and 95 at bats in the month of April, which is hilarious because he lost, whatever it was, 25 pounds. He looked like, he was built like a 7th grade boy, and then he's hitting home runs to begin the season. And then as he's put the weight back on, sometimes somehow his power disappeared. So the physics do not make sense here. I was never a big science guy, Greg, but maybe the key is actually being 140 pounds. Maybe that's the key to hitting home runs and not 180.
Yeah, right. Sorry, just get sick again, lose all that weight again.
That's why I don't hit home runs. I'm just I weigh too much.
You're just too jacked. Is that what you're saying? You have too much power in those arms.
Exactly. I need to go on the Mookie plan.
Because I know how much you're all about the dingers. Dingers, the only thing you care about. You talk about all these advanced stats, but the thing you love the most is dingers.
It's true.
That's the most important thing.
Well, hey, this whole conversation started with who? Who did I tell you? Greg, don't worry. He's hitting dingers. Do you remember who this conversation was?
What our original dingers was Kike Hernandez.
It was Andy Pages. He had hit a dinger in back-to-back games, and I said, Greg, I was arguing for in this case. I said, dingers, Greg. Ignore all the other stuff. Dingers. And what happened? Who was right?
I think we're misremembering. When you were talking about dingers, you were talking about Kike Hernandez.
I think it was both. I think
it might have been both, but the original argument on Jeff's show on Dodger Heads was.
You're probably right. I have a terrible memory, but dingers is the key. You're right. Sorry, I interrupted you.
Well, because but that's what Kike is doing. We can go to Kike or we can go to Pages, but let's start off with Kike because you love his dingers so much. The only thing I really want to ask about Kike is there's this portion of the world that thinks that anything that you do in baseball that's fun is unacceptable. So when Kike went on the mound with that half pitcher helmet that was out there and was just kind of dancing around and fixing his shades instead of going to first base and trying to get an out, does that annoy you? Do you just say, it's just Kike, or is it funny? Like, how do you feel about that?
There's too many people in the world who don't like to have fun, Greg. This is my view. There's too many people in the world that like smiling hurts their soul, I think, or laughing or just enjoying themselves, allowing them to not be taken so seriously for 5 minutes. It was awesome. Like the Dodgers were up by 1 million. They had a position player pitching. He put on this stupid looking helmet that we got to see him. He walked around in the clubhouse all the time during spring training when we were there, just wearing that helmet with his hair flying out the top. Like the whole thing's awesome. I don't understand the people that are mad about these things. And I said the same thing when the Dodgers lost by 1 million and people were mad because, there was the impersonation of Clayton Kershaw and Roki Sasaki and it's Butch. It's like, folks, it's baseball. There's 162 of these games. They're human beings. Just smile, enjoy life, smell the roses sometimes instead of focusing on the thorns. Like it was awesome and good for Kike.
Yeah, I love it too. Like to your point, go outside and touch some grass. All right. Like, just,
enjoy some sunshine.
Right. Just do something else that is not that. All right. We only have a minute or two left. So I'm going to look on here and see if there's any chats. There has to be a Conforto question at every single one of these. I'm going to just leave it to you. Everybody knows how I feel about Conforto. I don't actually know how you feel about Conforto, but does Conforto get his magic back during this road trip from Michael Negretz?
Well, check out, Michael was there last night, but for those that weren't, check out Dodger Heads from last night because Greg convinced all of us why Conforto was going to be back. He made a really compelling argument.
I was forced to.
Patience is the key here. We were patient. If you were patient with Andy Pages, it paid off. If you were patient with Max Muncy, it looks like it might start to pay off. Be patient with Michael Conforto. That's my advice.
Yeah. Michael, look. Everyone, you know how I feel about Mike Conforto. I never liked this signing. I still don't like it now. I don't think he'll figure it out. Now, do I think he's only going to have 5 RBIs for the rest of the year? No, I think he's going to figure some portions of it out. But he's just, if he gets onto a little hot streak, I'll be ecstatic. But I just don't see it happening anytime soon because he is a complete mess at the plate.
Yeah. Other than not being a good hitter, good fielder, or good base runner, I think there are some things to look at with Conforto and to appreciate.
So you're down on Conforto too. Okay,
no, that's right now. Right now, he's a bad hitter, bad fielder, bad runner. But other than that, I think there's reason for optimism.
Look, man, if you can't get a hit against the Marlins, he didn't get a hit against the Marlins.
Walks, Greg. Lots of walks. Dingers and walks, Greg.
You're the two most important things in Jeff Spiegel's life. All right, Jeff, we're out of time here. Thank you very much for coming on. Tell us everywhere you can find us, where we can find you on Dodger Blue.
Dodger Blue 1958 on YouTube. Go subscribe. We are live every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. Greg's on with me every Thursday night. If you missed last night's show, check it out. It was a lot of fun to do that one. And yeah, Dodger Blue 1958, everyone on social media, dodgerblue.com, at Jeff Spiegel on Twitter.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Reese, for handling all this. Parker Bell and Marcus Grant should be back on Monday. I will probably not be on Monday, but Clint Pasillas will be there, host of Dodgers Territory. And I know Jeff Spiegel was on Dodger Territory just the other day, so that episode is out as well. But thank you very much for being here. Have a great weekend. Go Dodgers, and stay tuned for Travis and DeMarco. Thanks, LAX.